And
Scott, you're going to monitor the chat, right?
I've monitored the chat, yes. You
Okay.
can put something in the chat or you can speak up if you're on Zoom. If you have a question or need some clarification, whatever, but yes, I'm watching the chat. So that is.
Okay. Think we're-
And we're recording, so I give you Carlton Davis, just an amazing man. I've known Carlton for quite a few years in our comings and goings. So thank you for being here, Carlton.
Thank you for letting me come back. I've not only, I mean, I've been an alumni of this group, I guess. I was coming back in 2020, and there's a couple of seasons when I was passed through here at different points and got so much value out of it. It was quite a bit larger group at that point. I remember some meetings, we would have 30 or 40, 50 people there. It was really big. But I'm glad to see it still going on. Thanks to Scott and Krista and Jay and everybody else that kept it going on this whole time, because I know it is a great resource. I was going to tell you a little bit about my background. I've been a COO in 4 different verticals over the years. So I've always kind of been a number 2 guy. So, and the reason I'm sharing that is because I'm not really coming at this from a technical point of view. I'm coming from more operations point of view. But I was an early adopter of ChatGPT when it first came out in November of 2022. I started using it. I was at a reverse logistics company in Gallatin, and we were buying returns from Amazon at scale. And this came out, and we started using this for all kinds of things. Of course, then it looks like child's play compared to what we have now. It was almost like spell correct, I guess, but it still seemed pretty magical at the moment. But you could see the potential in it. And that's really a year and a half ago, I started doing this full time, and I've been doing training, working with small businesses. I'm at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center and work with founders there. And also at the Nashville Chamber of Commerce. And we're doing some programming for small business there that has been going on for the last year. And we've got plans out through 2027 with workforce development, things oriented toward AI, especially with small business. They want to make sure that small business is able to keep up. So that's what I've been doing and kind of how I got here. I was just, this was, I threw this slide in at the last minute because I was thinking it was almost exactly 9 months ago when I was here, and how much these tools have changed in 9 months. It's just unbelievable. But we're already starting. How many of you guys have used chat, or not chat, but AI today? Okay. So we're seeing a lot of movement, and we're going to talk a little about prompting because I think there's still a lot of important things about that. But we're seeing a lot of these tools start to move almost beyond a prompt, where you don't have to be quite as concerned about the structure of that. But I think there's still a lot of value. But with agents, they're a little more goal oriented. So you kind of give them a task and an endpoint and a way to verify that they've arrived, and they will keep going until they get there, as opposed to prompt where you're kind of going back and forth, and then you end up doing it. With the agents, you kind of talk to them and they do the work, right? So you come up with a plan, but they're doing it instead of you doing it. We're also seeing increasing adoption, obviously, and I'm going to share some of the results from the survey from those that took that. And I'm assuming that that's pretty typical of the rest of the group. But we're seeing increasing adoption, everywhere you go. And I've also seen some areas where we're seeing a little pushback. So Gen Z, I'm seeing now in the last 2-3 months, multiple instances of Gen Z type folks who are, abstaining from using AI. I don't know how long they'll be able to do that, but it's kind of because as much as it's an opportunity, it's also a threat to many, and I think they're perceiving it through that lens. But that's something I was 6 months ago. If I told somebody I was doing AI, they got excited and said, "Oh, that's really cool." Well, now there's been a few times where people you get the hand, like, I don't do AI. which is an interesting position to take. The impact on jobs, I think, is still pretty unclear. A lot of layoffs and mass workforce changes have been blamed on AI, but I think that some of the powers that be that are making these decisions, rather than admit that they made some bad decisions in the past, have a convenient scapegoat to now hang it on AI. But I do think there's some elements of that, and people, they certainly are looking for more skills in those areas. I'm assuming, I'm not doing the hiring these days, but that's what I would be looking for, is somebody that is more fluent in some of these tools. But still, it's not, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, there was a lot of doom and gloom about none of us are gonna be working. And I think it's proven to not be the case. If anything, it feels like it's making more work in a way, because our brains still work at human speed. But now we've got this tool that can do 100 times more than we used to could, but we're still having to oversee that and interact with it. So it's kind of a catch-22. I don't think it's played out quite like a lot of people felt. And now the government oversight, that's been an interesting thing that has come to play now with, you may have heard about Claude Mythos, the model that came out that was too powerful to release. And then, so there was a move by the government to say, we need to vet these things before we release them. And I wonder if there's not some gamesmanship going on there too, but even ChatGPT has a new model that has only been released to select few at this point, kind of like Fable was. It's Chat 5.6 is out, but people in this room can't access it, but it's out there, and I'm sure we will soon enough. And the last one, of course, infrastructure in the headlines. We're seeing a lot of that, especially here in Nashville and other places with the data center at the zoo. And there's, people are getting really vocal about not in my backyard, but these things have to go somewhere. I'm not sure what the answer is, but we're seeing that's kind of rough figuring that out. But to keep up with the compute that's required to produce these results, something's going to have to go somewhere. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off on conjecture. This is a images. I actually took the data from our survey and just fed it in and said, pull out the 6 most interesting facts from it. And this was done in Gemini. All these images today were done in Gemini. But you can see that, and this is, I think we had 8 participants that answered on the survey. And it said about half of them were using it occasionally, and 37.5 used daily, and one person, and I know who it is answered advanced. I don't know if he's on here tonight. Been feeling pretty optimistic about it generally. The most surprising fact to me was how many folks are using Claude, because I'm still thinking that's a little more advanced tool for most, and especially because it hasn't been around quite as long. I've chosen to focus mostly on ChatGPT today, and you can replicate these things are sort of fundamental that I'm going to share. You can do the same thing in other tools, but just for simplicity, I want to kind of stick with one and not get too many different tools going at the same time. But that was very surprising to me to see how many people are using Claude. And then most people would say that they're in the beginning phases of this, still exploring and beginning, and some at an intermediate. Concerns about data privacy and security. That is something I too share. Trying to figure out the best way to interact with these things without giving up everything. And we can talk a little bit about that. There's a variety of things that you can do to address that. You can even run local models. I've got one on my machine that I can run. It doesn't connect to anything. But that's one way, and there's some settings in chat. If you don't know about it, does everybody know about the don't use my data to train the model? Did everybody know where that toggle is? Well, it's in there, and I can show you, but that's a good one to turn off.
And you can always like Google it.
Yes.
Like when you're in there and trying to figure it out, just Google it. saying, how do I do this in thought, or how do I do?
It's the greatest thing. It's its own user's manual. Just ask it. Just say, I heard this
That's
guy
right.
talking about this. How do you do it? And it'll tell you exactly how to do it. And then some of the learning tools, hands-on practice for job apps, which is something that we're going to do. And the reason that I messed up our audio system. So, and then speed learning new roles was another one that people shared some ways that they're using research or using the tools. So you can use AI as a writing assistant or a search engine, and that's where all of us start usually. But it really becomes truly powerful when you start using it as a thought partner. And what I mean by that is it's an iterative conversation where it isn't treated as an answer machine, where you just ask it a question, it responds with some information, and then you're on your way, almost like Google. The way you can really get value out of this is to really unload what you're working on, give it the context, give it some background, give it some information on what your goal is, and have a conversation. And you are guiding that conversation, and your results will be much, much better. Because if you're simply using it to just get an answer, that's not going to be the best answer. The first one is seldom the best answer on these. You just need to give it more and more context. One thing that I try to promote without specifically promoting AI is to get an AI first mindset. I know that's counterintuitive, but to try to, it's not going to leap out of your laptop and solve a problem for you. So you have to initiate that conversation of going to it with whatever you're doing. And I'm sure we've all had times you maybe thought in retrospect, wow, I should have asked ChatGPT. I probably could have done this for me. And you're probably right. It's really, I bet if I ask it, if I lock my keys in my car, it could come up with 3 ways I had never even thought about to get them out. Like I didn't even think about that. When I was in Japan last spring, we didn't take any medicine over there because we heard it's so hard to get medicine in the country. And it turned out to not be true, but we went to a pharmacy. I had a headache one night. Went to a pharmacy, was able to communicate with the pharmacist enough to let them know what we were doing, but I was trying to find Advil or something like it. And she directed me to the right section of the store because I saw lighting bolts coming out of heads, knees, and so I knew this is the pain meds. But then I quickly realized all of the boxes are in Japanese, and I was just about to leave, but then I thought, this AI first mindset, I was about to leave, took a picture, I thought, I wonder if it could help. And it told me exactly which box had ibuprofen in it. And I got the box, and it got on Google Translate, took a picture, it was Advil. And I left there, feeling pretty good about that. And I could have left there with a headache. So it's that sort of thought pattern of thinking about asking it, how can you help me with this? How can you make it easier? How can you make it more efficient? Or how can you maybe even eliminate me ever having to do this again? That's something else, but you can work with it and share and get the answers. One of the questions, and I've got some more questions later that came in through the survey, people were asking about which tools to use. And my advice in general, and I've had to take this myself, is to try to stay focused on fewer tools, some of these core tools. Personally, I'm using ChatGPT and Gemini a lot. Gemini works great with my email and my Drive, and that's all connected. And I feel like there's minimal exposure there because Google already knows everything anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm still hand feeding ChatGPT, so I don't have it directly connected. And then I'm using Codex, which is kind of ChatGPT's version of Claude. I'm using that to do vibe code things separate, but still hand feeding it. So it's not directly connected up to stuff. It does have access to a folder on my desktop, but I'm not giving it my Gmail and Google Drive and access to those type of things. But I think it's better and smarter to try to pick a couple and whatever, because I also think it's good to have redundant service of some kind, because these things do go down sometimes, or they're not accessible. I've had it happen before. And if you're completely tied to one, you're kind of out of business. So it's always good to have kind of sidekick that you can go to in case you have trouble getting on. I mean, was going down quite a bit. But I also recommend using the paid version if you can. A lot of people are using the free version and think it's the same or it's not even close. You're gonna get a much better experience. So if you can, even the $20 version, you're gonna get a much better version. And even picking the more robust models that you're interacting with. I know that we're Americans, we're super uh, impatient and we want instant answers, and it can give you an instant answer, but like the iterative conversation, you're going to get a better result if you use one of the more robust engines. And it's sometimes it's worth the wait. So one thing that this is, I know we were talking a little bit about, or I was talking that prompting's kind of becoming not as critical. I do think the engines now are so smart at you don't have to spend as much time. They can really do a great job. Certainly don't have to be grammatically correct. And I dictate to mine all the time. And you don't have to go back and correct yourself. Just keep talking. It'll figure it out. It's rare that a word or two came through the wrong way and it derails your whole conversation. They can figure that context out. But if you're not really getting results that you're happy with, it probably has something to do with how you're communicating with it. Because communication, as in all relationships, and even with this, is foundational. And so if you're having a problem, between individuals, between whoever, if you're not communicating effectively, that's probably has something to do with it. So I want to spend just a minute talking about some tricks that you can use or things you may not even be aware of. These are two. One is called mega prompts. So mega prompt is instead of just asking a simple maybe sentence or two, you can actually ask it to help you construct a really robust prompt. And what you can do with that is you can get a lot better answer because it can help you come up with things that you hadn't even considered. So I want to show you how this works. And you can do this with any of these. Now, again, I'm going to dictate. Create a mega prompt to help me determine the best next step in my career based on my experience, strengths, interests, financial goals, preferred work environment, and current job market. So this, that's pretty robust prompt, but using this phrase mega prompt, now it's going to give you this really robust, and this, again, we're in ChatGPT, but you can even edit this thing on the fly here. If it's still writing, you can see the three dots, but watch how fully robust this thing is. And you can do this with anything. If you were planning a garden and you just said, give it some ideas, but it's going to talk about the season and the grow zone and what your goals are and what the soil's like. But in this instance, act as a career strategist, executive coach, recruiter, hiring manager, resume analyst, LinkedIn optimization expert, et cetera, et cetera. So it's giving it a role, it's giving it a task, it's giving it some more information on background. And again, you can use this. You could copy and paste it. I don't recommend that because you'll probably see some things in here that aren't something that you want to spend time on. But you can, even with this, you could say, oh, but I'm not worried about that. I want to add on this. So you can make changes to this and then copy it. So it's not going to execute this yet. It's just going to provide the prompt for you. So now you got this like super prompt. Throw that thing in there and watch the kind of results that you get out of this, as opposed to whatever kind of narrow focus question that you may have come up with. So that's using a mega prompt. And any of the LLMs will do this. I was going to show you one other that sometimes I need an ELI 4, I think, explain like I'm 5. So if you just put ELI 5 quantum physics, it will come back in very simple terminology and analogies, probably to a playground about a swing, and a slide and a sandbox and a ball. And terms that we all know, it will explain quantum physics or anything else you want to understand monetary policy or anything. So as you're in a career search mode and you're maybe looking at industries or people are dropping jargon, you could use ELI 5 with whatever, and it automatically knows. Here, I can show you real quick. ELI 5 quantum physics. And you can sort of see the example. Here's imagine a toy car in your room in normal life. The car's in one place, whether you look at it or not. But in quantum physics, a tiny particle is, so it goes on and on about explaining this. But you can also, not just ELI 5, you could do ELI high school or college or as an expert. So you can keep grading the answer, I guess, or simplifying it to get it to a level that makes sense. So that's just a couple of tricks that you can use. I'm going to go through five. No, it's four. The numbering's off. Different examples that I'm going to sort of demonstrate using ChatGPT. How many of you have done deep research before? Do you know about deep research? Okay. How many of you had the paid version of Chat or any of these models? Yeah, there's one called Go. Yeah, there's something that's really economical, and I'm sure it's going to be better than the free version.
Yeah, I just started.
I get value out of this every day. I was working on my air conditioner today, which I would not have ever done without Chat being there. But so deep research is, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come even at the Go level, that $8 level. I'm not sure how many you get on the free version, but basically deep research allows you, we're going to go into that interview prep. We're going to do have the AI help interview me so I can practice an interview. Then we're going to look at how you can use it for LinkedIn and resume guidance to help you refine or tailor your resume or LinkedIn profile for maybe a certain role that you're looking at. Maybe if you're an accountant and you're trying to move toward financial analyst now. So it would help you come up with some ways that you could reword without fabricating, pull those experiences that are applicable in another field. And then a career coaching project. This is another feature of Chat, and it's in some of the other tools as well, creating a project. So we'll go through that. How's that sound?
Cool.
All right, here's deep research. When you give it a prompt, it's going to typically, and we'll be able to see it, it's going to outline what its path is going to be when you give it this prompt. Deep research would return maybe a 10-page report with citations for whatever you want to look at. If you were thinking about, in this example, I went ahead and ran it because I've seen these things this one was really short. I think it took 5 minutes, but sometimes they'll run 30, 40 minutes on research and come back with hundreds of sites that it is researched super deep. I mean, you would have had to pay hundreds of dollars for this in the past and waited weeks, but you could research a company or potential employer that you're interested in. You could understand more about an industry and how maybe your skills might translate into a different field that you don't specifically have experience in. You could analyze competitors. This is if you were in a business, or compare different opportunities. If you've got 2 different offers that you're looking at, you can feed this information in and have it do deep research and do this really exhaustive comparison. But I'll show you how to do role and organization research. This is one that I've already done, but I'll just show you again so we could save time. It did 124 searches, 5 citations, and it took it 6 minutes, which that's really a pretty simple one. But what I told it, I'm giving it a copy of my LinkedIn profile as well as my resume. And really either one of those would probably be sufficient. And then I tell it that I want to do deep research. I'm evaluating whether to pursue this career opportunity. And I just cut and pasted HCA paid media analyst job description and then gave it my credentials and said, tell me how good a fit am I for this role. The way that you do this, you click on right here, deep research. So you actually have to add this to your search and see how it's indicated there. So that, and then you type your prompt in. On the paid version that I have, $20 a month, I think I get 30 of those in a month. I've never run out of them, but they are limited. So you don't want to do it every day. And they do take a while to execute. So you're probably going to get kind of burned out. I would go in and look at creating a pretty good prompt around it so that you're sure about what you're getting. And it will, again, preview before it goes and execute. But this is, so this, the blue box is where I've just cut and paste straight out of LinkedIn, but this is what it returns. And you can download this report, but it will do all kinds of research. Now it's looking at my fit for this job. It tells a lot of industry information on HCA, and here you can click through and actually is referring to their annual report shareholders, and you can go click on these. The links are live. You can go see HCA's annual report, etc. But I don't know how many pages this is, and you can see that it creates its own table of contents for you. So you can go to a certain section, it'll take you straight to it. But that's a great tool to know for whatever you might need to do. I've done it a lot with vendors. If you got quotes from 2 different companies to build your deck on your house, throw them in there and have it compare, and it will look at their reputation. It'll look at the price, it'll look at turnaround, the guarantees, all this kind of stuff. So it's great. I'm on a HOA board and I use it every time we get repairs done. I just throw all the different responses in there and let it figure it out. Okay, interview prep. So all of the AIs also have this, a voice mode where you can interact. Is anybody using voice mode now? And you can do it on your phone. I do it, I've done it before when I'm doing, maybe prepping for something, one of these, I can put an outline of what I'm going to speak, and it will remind me as I'm driving to the location. It's called different things. It's called ChatGPT, it's called voice. Claude has voice mode, Gemini has live, but they all do the same thing. So I'm going to have it help me practice an interview. So I'm going to copy, this is a prompt. I'm going to share a job opportunity that I'm considering along with my resume, LinkedIn profile. Help me prepare for the interview by asking one question at a time, evaluating my answers, and coaching me on how to improve. Do not ask compound questions. Sometimes it asks really convoluted questions. And if I want you to skip to the next question, I'll simply say, next interview question, please. So I'm going to take that prompt into ChatGPT, and I'm going to go ahead and load this up before I give it the other pieces so that we can engage the voice mode. So I'm going to enter my resume, and again, this paid media analyst job at HCA. So I'm going to put those 2 bits in here, and you'll see when these circles complete that they're ready to go. So now I'm going to send this. I'll let it respond so I can jump in here. We can get. Do you see this icon? And there's a similar one in Gemini. So I'm going to click on that. So now she's probably already asked me a question, but I'll just ask her to ask it again. Hello?
Hey there, I'm here and ready to roll. Just let me know when you want to dive into the next question or if you want to tweak your last answer.
Okay, ask me the last question again.
No problem. The last question I asked was, tell me about your background and why this paid media analyst role at HCA is a fit for you.
Well, I've done this kind of work for years and I'm excited about it. My granddad did it, my dad did it too, and it's just in my blood, I guess. I just love numbers and doing all this stuff, and it's great.
I hear your enthusiasm, but it's too vague and personal for this role. They need concrete professional examples. Skip family history and focus on your direct relevant experience. Mention a campaign or project with metrics tied to performance analysis. Let's tighten that up.
Okay, so there was this one time we were working on a project where we were trying to measure customer sentiment, and we did some A/B testing and refined those. And then once we got good data, we put it in the field and gathered data and got results which provided actionable information for our marketing team.
That's a step forward, but it's still broad. You need to anchor it with specifics. What was the platform?
So anyway, you can do this ad infinitum, and you can have it ask one at a time. You can have it ask overall, but I mean, that is pretty strong right there. And you can even tell her if she's getting like too aggressive, just say, dial it back. This is this is a dog walking job.
Did she say that there's the door?
Yeah, you're fired. But it's a great tool, and you can do this for all kinds of things. I'll show you this real quick. This is like what I was doing with my air conditioner today. So it's in ChatGPT or Chat. And you see that the same icon that you see here, the blue one. Hello.
Hey there, Carlton. What's up? Anything on your mind today? Or are we just hanging out?
I'm gonna demonstrate something. I'm gonna click the plus sign and then click live video.
I'm ready whenever you are. Once you
Okay.
start the live.
What
All
is,
right.
what is this?
That looks like a presentation remote. Basically a little clicker to move forward or backward through slides. Are you planning on running a slideshow somewhere?
How do you pair it with a MacBook?
Typically, those remotes connect via Bluetooth or with a USB receiver. If it's Bluetooth, you just put it in pairing mode and connect it in your Mac's Bluetooth settings. If it's got a USB receiver.
Which one of the buttons advances to the next slide?
The button with the right arrow is your forward button. That'll move you to the next slide.
Can you show me which one?
Absolutely. The large button in the
Show
middle.
me.
If you've got any other
Sometimes
factor.
she'll actually draw a box around it. But you can do that with anything. I mean, you're charging a battery in your garage and you don't know which way to hook the leads up, or what does that meter mean? Or will it turn off when it's done? You can ask anything. You can get a model number and she'll diagnose anything. I was working on an air conditioner unit outside and took the thing off and it's flashing a certain code. And anyway, crazy what you can do with that. But that's using voice mode and then using live mode. That's more stuff to do at home, I guess. LinkedIn optimization. So you can have, is anybody using it for this type thing to help with writing things? And so I'll show you very quickly. I have pulled my LinkedIn profile out as a PDF. It's under other options. I think you can pull this out. Then I'm going to tell it, once again, we'll get this paid media analyst job. Let me grab this. I'm going to have it. Here's the actual prompt I'm going to use. Make suggestions section by section on. Sorry. Well, it's not going to do it. Won't let me copy it. Make suggestions section by section on my LinkedIn profile to craft it to be more appealing to someone who might hire me to be a paid media analyst. But now it's gonna take that job description, it's gonna take my existing, and it's going to come through with a lot of great feedback. And my background's not a great fit for this, so it's probably a good example of that. But it will push back. It's not just gonna say, oh, you'd make a great media analyst. But see how it says your LinkedIn profile currently positions you as a AI operations consultant. Your role is looking for someone who can help analyze, blah, 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 blah. But it's coming up with difference, because right now my headline says AI training workshop for leaders, Forex COO. It's going to take some experience that I've had that is relevant to that job and recast it, because I do tell it, don't fabricate experience, because it can start to imaginate a little bit. So you can dial that back. But it is a great way if you're trying to make a pivot in your career about how you could position your actual real experience for a different similar role, and it can pull it out. It's really hard to
That is
do.
amazing.
Any questions about that? I'm trying to keep us going here. I'll show the same type idea on resume guidance. So review my resume and this job description, help me tailor my resume. So write a resume for this job, and then it'll also write a cover letter that helps highlight the experience, education, training, and accomplishments most relevant for this role. So I'm going to go in and chat, paste that prompt in. I'm going to add the paid media role and my LinkedIn and resume.
Carlton, what's that medium meaning on the bottom, right at the bottom?
That's the brain power that it's using. I'll show you this if I can grab this. Resume, paid media analyst. So let's imagine you're trying to go for this job and you want to actually take your resume, craft it specifically for this role, and then have it. This is, you can, the intelligence that it's using. I would usually use medium. If it's something that's really involved, you could use high. I would not use instant though. You're going to get something really quick, but it's probably not the best. But I'd usually, and you can also pick which model to use. I'd always use the most powerful model. So back to this, and this is generative AI. So every time you ask a question, it generates something a little different. So you don't ever know exactly what it's going to do. But so it's given me a review. It says that I've a credible, but not perfectly direct fit for this role. And then it's talking about how it would change some of my experiences on there to be more relevant. But I was going to show you where. So it's making suggestions now about what we want to do, replace or supplement the current bullets. But it will actually regenerate this exactly formatted like a resume, which you can already see it. See, there's a role, the dates, the company, the different experiences, but it's taking experience that I had now crafting it in a more a way that would catch the eye of someone hiring. And I can say, okay, write a cover letter. And you could obviously give it a lot more input about that your grandfather did this too, and it's in your blood. But so here, dear hiring manager, I'm applying for this paid media analyst role with HCA Healthcare. My background is not in traditional media buyer path, but it's highly relevant to the analytical, cross-functional. And that's what it's doing. It's pulling out the things that are relevant for this role. Because surely there's something you've done in your previous experience that is relevant to something that you never tried before. But it can really help with getting you to think outside the box too. And you can obviously go in and edit these. Again, you would not want to copy and paste this thing, but you can click right here and copy it, or you can get in here and edit it and say, this is actually editing that. But in some of these modes, you'll see a gray box around it. You can actually edit it in there before you copy it. I think I've got one more thing. Are we good on time? Okay, this is a career project. I don't know if anybody's built a project. It's the same thing as a custom GPT where I think of it as a standing prompt. A project is a folder. You can give it some instruction about what this folder's job is, and then you can put additional information in it. And basically you don't have to prompt it every time because the folder already knows what its job is. You define it once, but you use it many different times. So I'm going to show you how to create a project. And again, all of these, like Scott said, you can just ask it, say, hey, this guy was talking about building a project. What could I do with that? Or how can I do it? But I'll show you how easy this is. You can come over here, projects, and you're going to click this little plus sign. You can name it career coaching project. So it's going to create it and it'll show up in your sidebar. Next time you want to use it, where's right there it is. You can rename it if you want to right here. You can share it with somebody else. So I'm going to show you how to, under project settings, this is where you give it instructions about this is what your job is. I want to show you, I've created a career coach with the help of AI, help create instructions for it. So act as an expert career coach and strategist. I want to build a long-term career project with you, help guide my career transition. To give you the proper context, attached is my resume and LinkedIn profile. My target role are paid media analyst and related roles. Please acknowledge that you've received and understood this information. Going forward in the chat, I will ask you to help me with the following task. Do not answer these yet. Just let me know when you're ready. Evaluate opportunities. I will share job descriptions and you will analyze how strong a fit I am. Identify skill gaps. Help me spot areas where I need upskilling or better positioning for targeted roles. Or prepare for interviews. Help me prepare my pitch and run mock interviews based on these target roles. So now it knows this is this folder. When I see a job that looks kind of interesting, I'm going to throw it in there. It already knows we're going to add this, I'm going to add some information to it. Under sources. So this is sources of context. I'm going to drag my LinkedIn and my resume in here. So now it kind of knows who I am, and these are kind of on permanent file with it now. And you can change these, update them. If you decide you want to, you can remove a source, but you can put anything. You can put your personality test in there that says, I don't like working with people or not working with people, or I like numbers or whatever. Put all that, you can put your horoscope in there. And then you can ask it questions. So now it's got this information and I don't have to tell it what to do. Here's this role, paid media analyst. Back to this one. This is the prompt. I'm not even telling it what to do with it, but it already knows because I gave it the instructions. Received and reviewed the blah, 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 high level read. You're not a classic paid media analyst on paper yet, but you do have transferable strengths that can be repositioned. And it tells where those strongest alignments are. And then it shows where some weaknesses are. So it goes through it. You know, if you just saw any random thing, like I've never done that, but maybe I could, I don't know. Throw it in here and it will help evaluate that. And then you could even do what we were talking about, like click on this voice mode, and now we could go through a mock interview for this role based on my experience. But I don't, the value of that is I don't have to keep explaining who I am and what I'm going for. It already knows that. Now I just throw it new jobs. And it will compile these over time. So it starts to build some memory around that. And like I was saying, there's different names in the different models, but under chat, you got projects or custom GPTs, same thing, where it's a standing prompt and it knows what to do. Same with Gemini, they're called gems. Claude, they're called projects, and Copilot, if you have to work in that, is called Pages. So here's some questions about that were in the survey. Which AI tools should I use? Like I said, I think it's better to get deeper knowledge of a few, and some of these do better at different things. Claude's great at code. Claude's great at writing. Gemini, I think, is great as being a tool, a connector, because it's part of this whole ecosystem that's got your Google Drive, your Gmail, your chats. There's a lot that it can draw from. It's not quite as smart, in my opinion, as ChatGPT is. In my opinion, ChatGPT, even though I tried to get away from it, I keep coming back because it just knows me. It's got persistent memory, which you can control what it's remembering, but it'll bring up the most brilliant things from 3 weeks ago that I mentioned. I'm like, you're right, I did say that. And it's like, wow, that's really good. Like you're hearing me, because I never feel that way with Gemini. Gemini might give a pretty good answer, but I don't feel like we're building a relationship. But chat really starts to understand. But I think all of these, I don't feel like I've ever hit the ceiling on any of them. They're all very, very capable to do a lot of things. But the more you work with them, you might see some that you like. You can train it to write more like you if you don't think that it does currently. Somebody asked about, should I have AI write my resume? I don't specifically know of any reason why you wouldn't. But you don't, again, want to just copy and paste the whole thing in there. I think that's not going to be a good result. You're still responsible for what it produces. You still have to be able to back it up if you're in an interview or discussion. So you can't just say, well, AI wrote that. I didn't even read it. You're still responsible. And keeping up. This is how I keep up. When I'm out running or walking or whatever I'm doing, I'm usually listening to podcasts. These are a couple. There's a lot of other good ones. Everyday AI is about 30 minutes every day, and he goes primarily into some Claude, mostly Codex, ChatGPT, Gemini, and tells you, hey, here's this new feature. This is what it does. And he actually is doing demos of these. Artificial intelligence shows another great one. Newsletters, I get about 4 of these a day. And then Allie Miller is just one of many great, really easy to understand. I think that's one thing that I aim for is not a lot of jargon. I try to break this down and not use a lot of buzzwords. Um, but there's so many great sources out there, and you can, again, you can go ask any of your favorite AIs, what I'm interested in this, what are some podcasts that you could recommend? But those are free. You can listen to them through Spotify. And I know I've about overstayed my welcome. This is my QR code that goes to my website, and there's a contact form and all that, and LinkedIn, and everything's there. Please reach out, connect, and there's a place for feedback. Give me some feedback too. I love to know what I could be doing better. So please let me know. But do we have time for any questions?
Sure.
Uh,
Your questions from here, anybody online want to ask some questions?
I don't have a question, I have a statement that you might already know. First of all, thank you, this was wonderful, I learned a lot, and you made it very simple to understand. But, I had a friend from high school in town, we grew up in Michigan, she works for Microsoft. And we had dinner, and I told her about my recent job loss, and she said, and of course, she's gonna recommend Copilot, but I'm sure you could use any of them. She said, yeah, ChatGPT. She said, when I, put your resume in there and ask it to, can you give me a version of my resume that will get past the applicant tracker system?
Okay.
And she mentors people with
Mhm.
resumes and job search, and she said this group of people, once they did that, and they used that new resume, they started getting calls for interviews.
So they had to put that part in there about that it needs to work with ATS.
Yep,
Okay.
have it,
Yes.
give me a version of my resume.
So it
that
won't
would
spit
get
out,
past-
because I am hearing some people say, oh, they,
Summarize for the folks.
oh, yeah, can you guys hear that? Anyone?
Go ahead.
Well, the comment was what an amazing job that I was doing, and And goodness, and then something else. No, we're talking about guiding the AI to rewrite your resume so that it would pass ATS. And then the example was that after doing that, that you might be getting more responses and reach outs after you've done that because it's getting past some sort of barrier. I've also heard, on the other hand, of people having sniffers that could tell that AI wrote it and then they call it. I don't know, of course, anything that somebody could write, somebody else can unwrite. So
I just heard this by something I haven't done it yet, so I was worried
It w-
about that. I didn't.
well, I think
I'll go back to her.
I would do some editing and even put that in the prompt that I want, don't use common AI phrases. There's certain
Okay.
ways that it talks. Ask it, tell you, this is what my concern is. How could we avoid that? But you can provide examples of your own writing and it could mimic that. As
What if
a,
you could say, be more natural context?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, you sure can. And you can even give it examples of what more natural context looks like. Even if it's not your writing, you could say, this is this guy, I read his blog all the time. I love how he writes. I'd like to write more like that. And use it as guidance and example, and it will start to emulate that. And then you can give it praise or not after it delivers that and say, good job, that's great, or it's still a little too technical, or it's this sentences are too long and complicated. Make it a little simpler. But you can start to fine tune it by, giving it feedback, just like an employee, if you get something and you just say, no, that's no good, but you don't tell them why, they're not ever gonna get any better at delivering something that you could use.
Other questions? Anybody online? Anybody here?
Well, I like how you said you can use it for gathering company research for your interview. One thing I like to do too is whoever I'm interviewing with, look at their LinkedIn profiles and try to find something.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
So could you put like a person's name and title in AI and have it,
it
give
could,
me some key points?
it could help, but it can't go in, for some reason, I've never had luck with it going into LinkedIn because it's behind a paid wall, but I'll show you what you can do to help it. If you go to LinkedIn and we'll just go to anybody who's one of my, let's see who's been looking at my profile.
Send your request.
Walter. All right, accepted. So we can go here and under more, save to PDF, and it will pull Walter's profile into a document. And it'll have all his experience, where he went to school and all that stuff. And so that's the bypass. Instead of sending ChatGPT here, it's probably gonna say, I'm sorry, I can't access that. It's behind a wall. But you can pull it out for it and now say, hey, I'm gonna be interviewing with this guy and this lady. Tell me what we have. Oh, everybody went to Auburn, or, or you both live in Grassland, or who knows what. It'll find some stuff that, and talk about building rapport quickly. I mean, of course, you have to deliver it in a way that doesn't look like they were set up, but a lot of times if oh, you know him or her, or you used to work there, or you worked with Special Olympics or anything like that. I mean, that's good stuff.
I'll tell them where I saw it, it's like, I noticed your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You were in the Coast Guard in Fort Huron, Michigan, my grandfather owned a small resort there,
Yes.
some sort of commonality.
That is a great advice, and they put it on there for people to see, so there's a reason it's out there. I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to be a creeper, but no, it's out. I'll go look at their Facebook, I'll look at their Instagram, I'll look at their LinkedIn. I mean,
You're gonna look at yours.
yeah, if it's out there, go look. That's why it's there, but I know some people feel like it's creepy, but
Stalking.
this is public information.
I did it once in preparation for an interview and I got the job and the COO, so, must have premium, saw me looking at his profile and he sent me a connection request before the interview. I'm like,
Yep,
okay, I'll accept that.
I look at those.
Oh, we're looking for this role, that's from her.
Yeah. I'm like,
That's good advice. That's what is there, because I looked at, hey, who's looking at my stuff?
Yeah.
Fair game.
Carlton, thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so very much.
You're welcome.
This was wonderful. You have kudos for coming in the chat, so. All right, folks, 2 weeks. We'll see you back here. Have a happy 4th, stay safe.
Happy 200.
Happy 250th birthday.
Yeah. Enjoy yourself on the 4th of July.